أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين أما بعد. Today, inshallah, we're talking about the fasting on the day of doubt, which is the 29th of Shawwal, and fasting, or sorry, the moon sighting. Bismillah. So, fasting the day of doubt. The day of doubt, which is the day after the 29th of Sha'ban. So, because Sha'ban can either be 30 days or 29, so either it's 30 Sha'ban and it's not Ramadan, or after 29th of Sha'ban it becomes Ramadan. That's why we say it's the day of doubt. Because after the 29th of Sha'ban, it can either be Ramadan or it can either be the 30th of Sha'ban. So it says the day of doubt, which is the day after 29th of Sha'ban, is not fasted except as a supererogatory fast, as a nafila fast. So if you are going to fast it, you fast it with the intention of only a nafila intention. It is disliked to fast it as other than a supererogatory fast. For example, as an obligatory or mandatory fast with a specific intention, an indecisive intention, or a general intention. So it doesn't really matter which way you're intending. If you intend it to be anything other than a nafila, then that is disliked. So an indecisive, so a specific intention would literally be, you say, I'm going to fast Ramadan tomorrow, Ramadan of this year tomorrow, but you don't even know whether it's Ramadan tomorrow or not. Making this intention is makruh. An indecisive intention would be, I'm going to fast tomorrow if it's Ramadan. So saying something like that, sorry, not if, but if you say, for example, I'm fasting tomorrow, I'm fasting Ramadan, if it's Ramadan tomorrow, if not, I'm fasting such and such fast. So an indecisive intention, or a general intention being something like, I'm making intention to fast tomorrow's fast, without actually saying what it is. So specific intention is, I intend to fast the first fast that I am liable for tomorrow. Wavering, or you waver between if it's supererogatory or mandatory, or I intend the fast of tomorrow without actually saying anything. So all of these are not allowed. On the day of doubt, like we said, so what is allowed? The only thing allowed is fasting a supererogatory fast. On the day of doubt, it is somewhat disliked to intend another mandatory fast, but prohibitively disliked, being tahrim and makruh, to resolve that it is a fast of Ramadan. So if you don't know whether it's Ramadan or not, you cannot say, I'm fasting Ramadan tomorrow. You're sinful for it. If it transpires, so let's say you intended a different mandatory fast. If it transpires that it is Sha'ban, it suffices him for what he intended. So let's say you intended to fast a vow which you had done, or maybe you intended to fast a nafila which you had left halfway, which is mandatory. So if you made that intention and it turned out that it's not Ramadan, then the intention is valid, and whatever you made intention for, it's allowed. But if it transpires to be Ramadan, if it turns out that it's actually Ramadan, then it suffices as the fast of Ramadan. So that's also allowed if he is a non-traveler. So if you made an intention, for example, for a mandatory fast tomorrow, as in 30th of Sha'ban, or the day of doubt, let's say, and it turned out to be 30th of Sha'ban, whatever you intended is fine. If it turns out to be Ramadan, then you're fasting Ramadan. Even though you might have intended something else, it becomes the fast of Ramadan if you're not a traveler. If you are a traveler, then whatever you intended happens. The reason for this is, when someone's not a traveler, Ramadan is fard for them. So no matter what intention you do during Ramadan, it's always going to be the Ramadan fast. If one wavers in the intention between fasting and not fasting. So what did we say? We said one is indecisive between nafila or fard, nafila or mandatory, right? But over here, this isn't nafila or mandatory doubt. This is you're wavering in your intention between, are you going to fast or are you not going to fast? So you can't say, if it's Ramadan, I'm going to fast tomorrow. Because that means you haven't made up your mind whether you're actually going to fast tomorrow or not. This isn't a proper intention. So if you make an intention like that, it's not allowed. You're not reckoned to be fasting. If one wavers in the intention such that if it is Ramadan, then it is a fast of Ramadan. Otherwise, if it is another mandatory fast, one is reckoned to be fasting, although it is somewhat disliked. Sorry, one moment here. For example, if one intends, if it transpires to be Ramadan, then I am fasting. Otherwise, I am not. So that's the intention which is not allowed. You cannot make that intention because it's not a valid intention. You'll end up not fasting. But if one wavers in the intention such that if it is Ramadan, then it is a fast of Ramadan. So he's not wavering in his fast. So he's saying, I'm going to fast tomorrow. He just doesn't know whether it's Ramadan or not. So then he would be fasting. Then it is a fast of Ramadan. Otherwise, if it is another mandatory fast, one is reckoned to be fasting, although it is somewhat disliked. Similarly, if one wavers in the intention between remember we said anything other than nafila is disliked. So if you made an intention for a mandatory fast, it doesn't matter whether it's Ramadan or not, because it's a day of doubt. It's considered a makruh. Similarly, if one wavers in the intention between a fast of Ramadan and a nafila fast, if it transpires to be Ramadan, then the fast of Ramadan is valid. Otherwise, it is a nafila fast in both cases. Why? Because either way, whether you make an intention for a mandatory or a supererogatory prayer, nafila fast, if it's Ramadan, all of your intentions, no matter what they are, become Ramadan, as long as you're not a traveler. That's why even if you intend a mandatory and it turns out to be Ramadan, it ends up as a Ramadan fast. If you intend a nafila and it turns out to be Ramadan, it becomes a Ramadan fast. But the only way to do this without it being makruh is to make the intention specifically for a nafila fast. Otherwise, anything else, like we said, is going to be makruh. So if somebody said, if someone makes the intention, if it's Ramadan tomorrow, I'm fasting Ramadan. If it's not Ramadan tomorrow, then I'm fasting nafila. This is makruh, but you can do it. It's valid. In both scenarios, one is not liable for making up the fast if one invalidates it. What does that mean? That means, for example, you made an intention for nafila, but it turned out to be Ramadan. But I believe you thought that when the alternative intention is a mandatory nafila and it transpires that it is not Ramadan, one is deemed to be performing a nafila fast. If this nafila fast is broken, one is not liable for making up the fast, as a nafila fast was not specifically intended. So if you don't specifically intend the nafila and then you ruin that fast, since you never specifically intended that nafila, it's not mandatory. You're not liable to make it up again. It is somewhat disliked to fast the last day or two of Sha'ban, thinking that this is exercising due precaution. Okay, so thinking that this is a good thing and that you're doing what we call ihtiyat by fasting these last 2 days of Sha'ban, this is tanzihan makruh. So Bukhari narrates the Prophet ﷺ said, do not precede Ramadan by fasting a day or two, unless it is someone who has a habit of fasting these days, in which case let him fast that day. That meaning maybe it's a Monday and you're someone who always fasts Mondays and Thursdays, or maybe it's another day that you normally fast. And it just happens to be 28th and 29th of Sha'ban. In this case, since you're not doing it with the intention of 28th, 29th Sha'ban, you're doing it with the intention of just carrying on a worship that you always do, that's fine. Now, pay attention here. It is somewhat disliked to fast the last day or two of Sha'ban, thinking that this is exercising due precaution. It is not disliked to fast more than 2 days, nor if these days coincide with one's normal fasting habit. We already said this. The Mufti and the district judge instruct the people at the commencement of the day of doubt to wait for clarification without intending to fast. So nobody intends to fast. After the sun's zenith at midday, they instruct people to eat if the situation has not become clear. Okay. Now, secretly fasting the day of doubt is recommended for the Mufti and the judge, and those who are amongst the educated. So if you listened carefully to what we just explained up until now, then you may secretly fast that day. If you didn't pay attention, then you're not able to fast that day. Everyone who knows how to fast the day of doubt, otherwise he is from the laity, so you're not allowed to fast. If the one who is waiting for clarification without forming an intention to fast eats before forming an intention, forgetting that he is temporizing and waiting, okay, so he didn't make the intention, but he ate forgetfully. Then it transpires that it is Ramadan that day, and he forms an intention to fast. His fast is valid. Okay, and his eating is like eating forgetfully after forming an intention to fast. So if someone forgets that I was supposed to be checking if it's Ramadan today or not, and you eat forgetfully, then it's fine. If there is doubt over whether it is the day of Arafah, so we're talking about Eid al-Adha, or the day of sacrifice, it is optimal to fast. Because this hasn't got anything to do with Ramadan. Now, inshallah, that was clear. Just to break it down simply, I know we said a lot of things, but the beginning is the important thing. The day of doubt is not fasted except as a nafila fast. That's the only sentence you need. So on the day of doubt, you make the intention that you're going to fast a nafila fast. And if it turns out to be Ramadan, then it becomes your Ramadan fast. If it turns out to be not Ramadan, so the 30th of Sha'ban, then it's a nafila fast, and that's fine. Like we said, if you're going to do this fast, you do it secretly. You don't do it openly. Why? Because this will confuse people. People will start making intention for Ramadan, and we said that would be makruh. They'll make an intention for other things, and it'll all be makruh. So you only do this fast if you know how to do it without doing any makruh. Now, citing the new moon. So Ibn Abidin, which this book is based off of, remember we said this is the Sublime Gift, this is Hadiyatul Ala'iyyah. It's the son of Ibn Abidin who wrote this book based on the book which his father wrote. So Ibn Abidin himself, he accepts global moon sighting. So this book will be structured towards that end. It won't talk about calculation. So that subject isn't in here. So this is just going to be like the classical texts. This isn't going to be anything new or modern. Now, why do I say that? Because what we're about to read here is not going to answer all your questions about sighting the moon, nor is it going to end the discussion on it. So the sighting the moon, whoever sights the new moon of Ramadan or Eid al-Fitr, so the beginning of Ramadan or the end of Ramadan, alone, right? Even if the one who sights it is the Sultan or his representative, but his testimony is rejected. Let's say the Sultan's a fasiq, no one believes him, right? So everyone says, no, we need one more other person, or, we don't trust you. It is incumbent upon him, whoever sighted the moon, to fast. So let's say for whatever reason, you saw the moon, but your moon sighting was rejected. People didn't accept it. You still have to fast because you saw the moon. It is impermissible to not fast. Why? Due to certainty about having sighted the new moon of Shawwal after sighting it alone. Because even if he has already fasted 30 days. So since you're not absolutely certain, you're certain that you saw the moon, that makes it fard upon you. Other people don't have to believe you, but you obviously have to believe your own eyes. In both scenarios, if one does not fast, one must make up the fast. Okay? But no expiation is due, even if one ate before his reported sighting was rejected by the district judge. Okay, so you have to fast, but if you do, for whatever reason, break your fast, then there is no expiation. If there is an obstruction in the sky, such as cloud, dust, or fog, the reported sighting of the new moon of Ramadan by one upright or blameless person is accepted. Okay? So upright and blameless. Upright or blameless. An upright person is a sane adult Muslim who does not commit a great sin. What are the great sins? For example, not praying, not fasting, not going to Jumu'ah. So a lot of the Muslims, unfortunately, a lot of the Muslims in the West, let's say, also including a lot of them in the East, but we're talking about the West, we don't accept them. If a person that doesn't come to Jumu'ah comes to me and tells me he saw the moon, I don't believe him. If a person who doesn't pray comes to me and tells me that they saw the moon, I don't believe them. Same goes for other things. Nor persists in small sin. Okay, so not just commits a great sin, okay, they don't persist in small sins either. So they don't swear when they talk. No, I'm not saying swearing is a small sin, but if when people are talking and they're not necessarily swearing at anybody, they've just got a foul mouth. So those are small sins because you're not actually swearing at somebody. I'm guessing it would be a small sin. Or things similar to that. They just keep doing makruhs and things. Or that which violates chivalrous conduct. Okay, so he doesn't persist in small sins, and he doesn't commit sins which would make us think that this person is untrustworthy. Or blameless. Mastur is a blameless person is one whose state is unknown and neither corruption nor uprightness has been established from him. Okay, so we don't know the person, basically. We don't really know this person, but obviously we can't really tell whether this person's, we've got no reason to believe he's a bad person, but neither do we have any reason to believe that he's a pious or upright person. So this is mastur. So we can accept their moon sightings. So again, one, if there's obstruction, one is enough. One adil or one mastur person, okay, is accepted, even if he reported the sighting of another person of similar acceptability. So, you know, maybe he didn't see it himself, but he's telling you that another person, which is a good adil person, right, upright person, saw it. So he's reporting a report. That's also accepted. The sighting of the new moon of Ramadan may be by a female or someone convicted for a false accusation of fornication and repented thereafter, which is important. Okay. So if someone ever accuses another person of fornication and it turns out to be false, we almost never accept whatever that person says after that point. Why? Because the lie that they have just told is, you know, if that person was convicted, it was a death penalty. So basically, you just tried to murder this person by lying about fornication. So that's how serious this lie is. That's why until they repent, and repentance, you know, between you and Allah is easy. But between you and the people is very difficult. We need to be able to see that you have changed and you do not fall back into your old ways. So for us to start accepting what you say. So it's very serious. It is not a condition for the one making the reported sighting to use the words, I testify. They don't have to say it. Or that he reports it in relation to a legal claim. Okay, so it doesn't have to be something to do with court or a court matter that you have. What does that mean? That means, for example, let's say you owe somebody money and you promise them that you're going to pay it to them on Ramadan, and they take you to court and you're saying it's not Ramadan, and then they bring people as witnesses that saw the sighting of the moon and they say that it is Ramadan. Okay, so it doesn't have to happen this way, is what we're trying to say. So they don't have to say, I testify. They don't have to say, Wallahi, I saw it. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be a court claim or anything. Okay, so just one person needs to come and say, I saw the moon. Or nor that there is a formal legal decision. There doesn't need to be a legal decision about this, or the court of law is convened, and this is so that it doesn't have to go through court. It doesn't have to go through witnesses. It doesn't have to be a shahada. This is just a what? As this is a report. It's just a khabar. A report is something that someone says they saw, or they're just giving you information. They're not testifying. Okay. This is a report, not formal legal testimony. It's not a shahada. Even if he does not detail how he made the sighting, he doesn't even have to tell you how he saw the moon. As long as he says, I saw the moon of Ramadan or the hilal, this is accepted. If it's an obstructed day where it's difficult to see the moon because of cloud cover, fog, and whatnot. As for the corrupt person, the fasiq, his reports are not accepted at all, except in matters such as purity or filth of water. Okay, whether water is dirty or not. Why? Because it's almost impossible to get a second opinion on these instances, or a second witness in these instances. So we have to accept what he says. Otherwise, we do not believe a fasiq. So someone who just doesn't pray, we don't believe them. Someone who doesn't fast, we don't believe them. not just for the moon, but for any other matter. Unless it's a situation where it's almost impossible to get a second witness for something like that. Only then, because we have to, we'll believe somebody like this. For the new moon of Eid al-Fitr, when there is an obstruction in the sky. So now we're talking about what? Eid al-Fitr, yeah? So this isn't Ramadan, this isn't the end of Ramadan. This isn't the beginning of Ramadan, it's the end of Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, okay? So for Eid, for the new moon of Eid al-Fitr, when there is an obstruction in the sky, it is a condition to have formal legal testimony, shahada. So for the start of Ramadan, what did we say? Shahada isn't necessary. But for the end of Ramadan, it is necessary. From who? From 2 free male adult Muslims who have not been convicted for a false accusation of fornication ever, or a free male and 2 free females meeting the same conditions, obviously. Okay, so either 2 men or 1 man and 2 women, which are adult Muslims that have never been convicted for a false accusation. Okay, there is no condition that the witnesses bring forth their testimonies in relation to a legal claim. Again, this doesn't have to go through the court. It doesn't have to be a legal claim or anything like that. As long as they do shahada and they say, I testify that I saw the moon, that is fine. If people are in a country without a ruler, such as England, where there is an obstruction in the sky, again, there's an obstruction in the sky, okay? It is obligatory to fast based upon the report of 1 reliable person, okay? Thiqa. And it is mandatory to finish fasting based upon the report of 2 upright males. Okay, we say report, not testimony, yeah? Of 2 upright males due to the absence of a ruler in front of whom the witnesses may otherwise testify. Because testifying needs to happen in front of somebody, okay? In front of a judge, basically. And in the UK, because we don't have a judge, there's no one there to take the testimony. So the report of 2 upright males is enough for us. They don't have to testify in front of a judge because there is no judge and there's no ruler. If there is no obstruction in the sky, okay. So these, we mentioned 3 situations, right? The beginning of Ramadan, we said no testimony required. 1 person is enough, even if it's a female. Now, the end of Ramadan, though, we said we're talking about obstructions in the sky. The end of Ramadan, we said there needs to be a shahada unless there isn't a ruler. If there's no ruler, which is the case, then again, it needs to be 2 males or 1 male, 2 females, but they just need to be reliable and their khabar is enough. We said if it's not a ruler, 1 reliable person is enough. But if there is a ruler, 2 people have to give shahada. So the ruler makes it that 1 reliable person, you start fasting with 1 reliable person, but when you end your fast, you end it with 2 upright males. So the ruler and not having a ruler, the only thing that changes is whether a shahada is necessary or not. It doesn't change the number of people necessary. Starting your fast is always going to be with 1 person if the sky is obstructed. Ending the fast needs to be with at least 2 men or 1 man and 2 females. Now, if there is no obstruction in the sky, there must be a large crowd whose truthfulness is known with compelling surety that cites the new moon of Ramadan. If there's nothing stopping people from seeing the moon, the hilal, then there needs to be a big crowd for the beginning of Ramadan. The number of people that constitutes a large crowd is consigned to the opinion of the Sultan. But what we say as Hanafis is it's best that there are many people from different directions. So not all from one place, but from many different directions that say we've seen the moon. That way you can be sure that these people aren't lying. Now, what happens if it's wrong? When 30 fasts have been completed and Ramadan was commenced based on the report of a single person, but the new moon of Eid al-Fitr cannot be sighted on a clear day, it is not lawful to cease fasting. You have to carry on fasting 31 days, and the witness is reprimanded as his lie has manifested. The person lied. If the report, so what would happen is we wouldn't trust him anymore. If the report for the commencement of Ramadan was from two upright people, but it turned out that they either lied or something happened, but they were wrong. The scholars differ over what is the preferred opinion. However, there is no difference of opinion that it is permissible to cease fasting in this situation. If it's two upright people, this is how much we trust when it's two people. Even if you don't see the moon on an open day, you can still stop fasting. Because we still trust these people. In this situation where there is an obstruction in the sky, it's permissible to cease fasting in the situation where there is an obstruction in the sky. But if there's no obstruction in the sky, there's a difference of opinion. Even if Ramadan was commenced based on the report of a single person. Now, so what we say is, basically, nowadays, because we really can't trust that many people anymore, unfortunately, people have many reasons to lie now. Before, it would make no sense for somebody to lie about sighting the moon of Ramadan, because their lie would have come out eventually, and no one would ever trust them again. But nowadays, it's monetized. There's social media. If you get, people to click on your posts and to watch what you're saying and to read what you're saying and engage with what you're doing, it's all monetized, so you get money from it. So people are incentivized to lie about anything, not just Ramadan, but they're incentivized to lie about everything. Why? Because there's money in it. There's money to be made. Therefore, obviously nowadays, what are we not going to do? We're not going to take one Twitter post and say, oh, look, it's Ramadan, and tell everyone to start fasting. Even though in our books, what does it say? One reliable person, even if you don't know whether they're reliable or not, as long as you can't see any reason for them to not be reliable, you accept it. That's what the book says. But if we were to do that, what would happen? We would literally be fasting a week before Ramadan. People would just start lying about Ramadan left, right, and center. I mean, they already are. So that's the reason. So this is what the book says, but in reality, we don't have that trust anymore. The new moon of Eid al-Adha has the same ruling as that of Eid al-Fitr. Okay? So whatever we said regarding Eid al-Fitr, the end of Ramadan, being that if it's obscured and there's a ruler, you need two people to testify. If it's obscured but there's no ruler, you need two people to tell you. So it's not a testify. So whatever we said about Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, the same goes for Eid al-Adha. The Qurbani Eid. And is not established in cloudy conditions except by two male or one male and two female witnesses on a clear day. There must be a greater number of witnesses. We already said that. If it's a clear day, you need a large amount of people to tell you that they've seen the new moon. For the new moon of the remaining months in the year. So the two Eids are important. Why? One, you're stopping fasting, and the other one, you're sacrificing, right? So the two Eids are very important. You need to get these days right. For the remaining months in the year, though, regardless of whether the sky is clear or cloudy, it is a condition that there are two free upright male or one free male and two free female witnesses who have not been convicted of a making a false accusation of fornication. So in the other months, it's we get two men or one man and two females to tell us that it's, for example, Dhul Qa'dah or it's Jamad al-Ula. If two people testify in front of a local judge, that testimony has been given in front of a certain city's judge. Sorry. If two people testify in front of a local judge, that testimony has been given in front of a certain city's judge. So they're testifying to a judge that another judge in the city gave a testimony, right? That the testimony has been given in front of us, that the new moon was sighted on a particular night, and the city's judge ruled according to the testimony. So if two people come to the local judge and they tell them, witnesses came to the city's judge and the city's judge accept their testimonies, and he found that these witnesses meet the conditions of a valid legal claim, the local judge rules according to the testimony of the two people. Okay, so the local judge believes them. If reports from numerous groups spread in a town that the people of another town are fasting, as the new moon has been sighted, it is incumbent on everyone in this town to also fast. So if news spreads in Liverpool that Manchester's fasting, we have to also fast. Same goes the other way around. If Manchester hears that Muslims in Liverpool are fasting, they need to also fast. Why? Because that means the moon has been sighted. When the new moon is established in a town, it is binding upon everyone in the world. And the earliest sighting is reckoned. Whoever saw it the earliest, we take that. This ruling does not apply to the pilgrim at Arafah. Reason being is they go according to the prayer times or for the purposes of the ritual sacrifice, even to the non-pilgrim, as has been made clear by my liege lord and father, being Ibn Abidin, rahmatullahi alayh. The sighting of the new moon during the day is not reckoned. So we'll get to that in a second. So what did we just say here? We said the new moon is established in the town. That is enough for the whole world. This is Ibn Abidin's opinion on the matter. Later Hanafis, nowadays Hanafis, let's say, so Mu'asir, they do not accept this opinion. And there is a legal basis for it in our Hanafi books. There are other ulama which have not accepted this. The reason being is countries far away, they say, should do local moon sightings. And there's also practically, it's very difficult to have the whole world fast on the same day according to one moon sighting, especially because of because when the moon sighting is seen in one part of the world at night time, the other part of the world, it's daytime. So there is also a practical reason behind why it's very difficult to have everybody fast on the same day. So the later ones, they don't accept this. They say local moon sightings need to happen. So as you can see, everyone who does these moon sightings, they all have their basis. Obviously, we didn't get into calculations. The book doesn't talk about those calculations here. But they also have their basis, being that calculations, basically they say that numbers don't lie. People lie, but numbers don't. Or that, we can literally, we literally know like what degree the moon is at every single phase of the day, every single day of the year. We've mapped it out, we've calculated it, we've witnessed it for hundreds of years. They also have their reasons for saying we're going according to calculation, because we can literally tell where the moon is, what phase it's in, and everything. But then obviously the hadith says see the moon. So that's where the debate happens. And both sides have their arguments. So it's not simple, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The sighting of the new moon during the day is not reckoned. So if you see the new moon during the day, you don't fast that day. You fast the next day, regardless of whether it is before or after the sun's zenith at midday. It doesn't matter. Okay, it could be straight after Fajr, as this new moon belongs to the following night. Okay, so that's what we do as Hanafis. If someone tells us they've seen the moon during the day, we don't start fasting that day. We fast the next day. That is, if the new moon is sighted during the day, that day is not the first day of Ramadan. The next day is. Now, things that do not invalidate the fast. Eating or drinking or having sexual intercourse forgetfully. There's a difference between forgetfully and accidentally. Okay? So eating or drinking accidentally will break your fast. Being it was raining and raindrops went down your throat. There may be a difference of opinion in that matter, but accidentally, so food accidentally went into your mouth and you swallowed it, will break your fast. But forgetting is different. It doesn't break your fast, okay? So eating, drinking, or having sexual intercourse forgetfully. If the one who is forgetful has the ability to fast, okay, the onlooker should remind him. So if he's somebody who's capable of fasting, whoever sees him eating should remind him, you're fasting, that he is fasting. And to not do so is tahriman makruh. If you see somebody eating during Ramadan who's forgotten and you don't remind them, and there's somebody who's completely able to fast, it's tahriman makruh. Just as it is disliked not to wake someone up if it is feared he will miss the prayer. So if you think that this person might miss Fajr if I don't wake him up, then you have to. It's wajib for you to wake him up. It's tahrim and makruh to let him sleep and miss the prayer. If the forgetful person, now what's it going to say in 65? This is unless it is out of compassion for a weak person who is fasting. Obviously, the opposite of this is someone who's very weak. Let's say he's a very old person, and you can tell that this person really needs to eat and drink, and you see them forget out of compassion, you don't have to tell them. But anybody else, you have to tell them. If the forgetful person lacks the ability to fast, it is better not to remind him. If the one eating forgetfully is reminded but does not remember and thus continues eating, it is incumbent to make up the fast but not to expiate. So it's a qada, but you don't have to do kafara. So you go to the person, you tell them you were fasting, and he goes, I don't remember fasting, and he just carries on eating. I don't know how that happens, but then that person, obviously their fast is broken because they carried on eating, but they don't have to do kafara. Now, the emission of sperm after looking at a woman does not invalidate the fast, even if it is looking repeatedly at her private parts or thinking about something. So if it's just by looking or just by thinking and sperm comes out, fast is not broken. This ruling applies even if he deliberately looks or thinks about something until he emits sperm. The fast is not invalidated even if the act is unlawful. That doesn't mean just because it doesn't break your fast you're allowed to do this. Remember, in Islam, what do we say? Any man or woman that thinks about something or sees something which gives them shahwa, gives them lust, unless it's their husband or wife, it's not allowed, even if it's a pen. You look at a pen for whatever reason, or a wall. It can be a wall. My teacher used to say wall. Let's say you looked at a wall. It's a blank wall, but for some reason you felt lust. You're not allowed to look at that wall. So thinking is the same thing. Thoughts, you have to control your thoughts. Now, what does not break the fast? We're carrying on. Applying oil or kuhul, even if its taste is found in the throat, or its color in the phlegm or saliva. Oil to your beard, nose, mustache. To your hair, your beard, your mustache. Applying oil to these parts, to your eyes. Or kuhul is what we call nowadays the mascara. Even if the taste goes to the throat and the color of your phlegm changes or your saliva changes, it's allowed. It is not disliked to apply oil or kuhul whilst fasting. So it does not break your fast, and it's allowed. It's not makruh either. Washing oneself in cold water such that coldness is felt inside the body. That's fine. Coldness isn't, there's no calories in temperature. It's fine. Nothing's actually entering your body. To insert a finger in the rear end, or for a female in her front end, unless it is wet with water or oil. So if the finger is dry, it doesn't break your fast. But if the finger is wet, or it has oil on it, or any other substance on it, and you put that in, then that would break your fast. 6, to swallow a grape tied by a string and then take it out. So I don't know why anyone would do this, but if you do that, your fast is not broken, because even though it may have gone down the throat, it's gone back out. So from this is derived the ruling of a doctor inserting a medical instrument into the throat of a patient who is fasting. There is no impropriety in doing so if the instrument is dry, and it must be dried prior to reinserting it. So the saliva of a person does not break the fast unless it's taken out of the body and then reinserted back in. So if the doctor goes in with any medical instrument which is dry, and it goes down the throat and it comes out, it won't break the fast. But if he puts it back in without drying it, because that saliva has now left your body, the saliva will break your fast. To intend breaking the fast during the day and then not to do so. Making an intention to break the fast does not break your fast, unless you actually go ahead and break your fast. The intention itself does not break the fast. 8, dust, even if it is from a flour mill. Flies, so dust, flies, or smoke, even if it is from oud or ambergris, entering the throat without a deliberate action, which means you didn't do it on purpose, which means not that you didn't light it, it means that you're not standing over it and inhaling it. Okay, even if one remembers that one is fasting. Okay, matter such as this is impossible to avoid. However, the fast is invalidated if one consumes it by a deliberate action. For this reason, scholars explicitly stated that to hold a censer invalidates the fast. I don't know what that is. It's a vessel that is used to burn incense. So, if the incense is burning in the corner of a room, then, that wouldn't break your fast because you can't get away from the smoke. But if you're the one that lights it and holds it, because that action is you're deliberately causing the smoke to be inhaled into your body, they say that this will invalidate the fast. Now, number 9, to find traces of medicine in the throat. This doesn't mean that you can take medicine. It means you found some traces of medicine in the throat. 10. Wetness remaining in the mouth after rinsing it, and one swallows the wetness together with saliva. Indeed, this does not break the fast, but after ejecting the water used for rinsing the mouth, one should spit out the contents of the mouth once before swallowing saliva. So let's say you're getting wudu, you wash your mouth's going to be wet. What you do after you've removed the water, you spit one time. After you try and gather the wetness in your mouth, you spit one time, and then afterwards you're fine to swallow. A small quantity, such as a drop or two of perspiration or tears entering the mouth, does not invalidate the fast. Why? Because it's impossible to not have this happen. However, if they are a plenty, such as that saltiness is found in all of the mouth, obviously if you swallow some tears, you're going to have saltiness. But if it's the saltiness, you've swallowed so much tears or so much sweat that your whole mouth feels salty, then the fast is invalid if you swallow it. To wake up in a state of major ritual impurity, that does not break your fast, yeah? So waking up junub, even if one remains so for several days, obviously he's going to be sinful for missing prayers, but his fast is not invalid. However, this is unlawful due to missing the ritual prayer, which is one of the pillars of Islam. Pouring water or oil into his external urethral orifice, which is the front part of a man. As for pouring water into the front part of a lady, it invalidates the fast, as it is like a suppository. So for a woman, it breaks the fast. For a man, it doesn't break the fast. Water or oil. To insert a piece of cotton in his front part does not break the fast, even if it disappears inside. If she inserts a piece of cotton into her front part, it does not break the fast unless it disappears. Or the cotton is wet, so it's wet before you put it in which case her fast is broken, but not his fast. So for a man, it doesn't, because it's not like considered an entryway. If a piece of cotton is inserted into the backside, the fast of a male and female is broken if it disappears, or does not disappear but is wet. Okay. If one has a bath and water enters the ear, the fast is not broken. So the ears are fine. If one scrapes the inside of the ear with a twig or a cleaning instrument, and dirt exits from the auditory meatus, and one reinserts the twig repeatedly into the ear, the fast does not break. It's fine. The fast is not invalidated if mucus descends into the nose, even if it is into the tip of the nose, and it is deliberately sniffed back such that it enters the throat. The same ruling applies if the lips are moistened with saliva while speaking or the like, and he swallows it. Or his stringy saliva flows down to the chin like a continuous thread, and he draws it back in, even if it is done deliberately, because it hasn't broken. It's still considered part of your mouth. If it breaks and then you decide to put the saliva back in, that will break the fast. Similarly, if phlegm is swallowed after ridding oneself of it by coughing it from the throat to the mouth and then re-swallowing it, the fast is not broken. So like we said, as long as it doesn't leave the body, phlegm and saliva, they don't break your fast. 17. One is overcome by vomiting and the vomit returns back down the throat without one's own action. This ruling applies even if it is a mouthful of vomit. So as long as it's not on purpose and it goes back down, not on purpose, by itself, basically. So even if it's a mouthful of vomit and it goes back down, it does not invalidate your fast. Similarly, if one deliberately induces vomit, but it's less than a mouthful. So if it's not on purpose, it doesn't matter if it's a mouthful or not, it's not breaking your fast. But if it is on purpose, then we do make a distinction between mouthful and not. if you do it on purpose and it's less than a mouthful, it won't invalidate your fast. But if you do it on purpose and it is a mouthful, then it does invalidate your fast. So if you deliberately induces vomit and it's less than a mouthful, it does not invalidate the fast, even if one deliberately returns the vomit back down the throat. One eats that which is between the teeth, and it is less than a chickpea in size. An unboiled, uncooked chickpea, by the way. So very small. 19. To chew the like of sesame seed taken from outside the mouth until it disappears, but the taste of the seed is not found in the throat. So because it's such a small thing and you don't taste it, it doesn't invalidate your fast. But if you do taste it, then it will invalidate the fast. In fact, it'll be expiation because you did it on purpose. It'll be kafara. Blood comes out from the gums and is predominated by saliva, and its taste is not found in the throat. So a little bit of blood in the mouth will not invalidate your fast, as long as you don't taste it in the throat and the majority is saliva. That is, it did not reach the stomach. However, if the fast is invalidated if blood predominates saliva and reaches the stomach. So the opposite. Cleaning oneself of filth, so you're doing istinja with water, obviously does not invalidate the fast unless one is excessive, so that he reaches the place where the instrument used for suppository is applied. This seldom occurs, so it's not something you should be worried about in usual circumstances. Okay. Accordingly, the moisture reaches this place. So it's not easy to do this by accident. Okay, so you don't have to be too worried about it, but do keep it in mind. Upon remembering that he is fasting, someone forgetfully having, so he remembers that he is fasting, but someone forgetfully having sexual intercourse immediately ceases to do so. So if you immediately stop after you remembered that you're fasting, then it's fine. The same applies when ceasing sexual intercourse upon the entrance of true dawn. So Fajr entered and you noticed, as long as you stop immediately, it's fine. Even if he emits sperm after ceasing to have intercourse, because it counts like a wet dream. In these two scenarios, if he does not stop, but he remains stationary and does not move, only the fast is made up. So even if you stay still, it's not enough. You need to stop the whole thing. However, if he moves back and forth, the fast is made up and he expiates if he emits sperm in the scenario of true dawn. In the scenario when he remembers that he is fasting, only the fast is made up. So if it's a true dawn situation, it's kafara, it's expiation. You need to fast 60 days one after the other, and then you need to make up one qada. However, if it's because you forgot and you're in this situation, it's only qada if you don't stop. Reason being is it's very difficult for a person in that instance to stop. If he withdraws upon the entrance of true dawn, or upon remembering that he is fasting, and then starts again, in the former scenario, so the true dawn, it's obviously going to be a qada and kafara. So you're going to make up the fast and expiate. In the latter, he only makes up for the fast. Why? Because even in that instance, it's still difficult for the man to not do it. Therefore, it's only qada. That doesn't mean it's not a sin. Being only a qada, when we say only qada, that doesn't mean it's not a sin. It just means the situation is, let's just say, understandable. So there's no expiation, there's no kafara. So we've run out of time. We'll stop here, inshallah. 23. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.